Hello, you're on the Reddit Reveals channel. I was halfway down the stairs with my backpack slung over one shoulder, phone in my hand, shaking like a drunk in church. Not because I was nervous, because I was about to detonate my entire life with one decision. I had just sent the message. I'm done. You win. Sent it to my boss, my landlord, my father, and to her. Hers was the only one who didn't reply. I could hear the hum of the fridge behind me, still full of the food I bought 2 days ago, when I thought I had a future here. The kind of future with bills and dirty laundry and a key rack by the door. Not the kind that ends with a bus ticket to nowhere and a note taped to the microwave. The note read, "Don't try to find me." But I wasn't trying to find her. I was trying to vanish first. See, I knew she was going to leave eventually. There were signs. Slippery ones. Like how she started showering with music on, even though she hated loud sounds. Or how she changed her password from our anniversary date to something she said just felt random. But I never thought she'd beat me to it. We had argued 3 nights ago. Not a screaming fight. Just quiet venom. She told me I'd never change. That I was predictable. Weak. You'd rather drown slowly than risk jumping, she said, like I was some rotting metaphor. And maybe she was right. Until this morning. Because this morning, I quit. Quit my job. Quit the lease. Quit being the version of myself that made it easy for her to cheat. And as I was zipping up the bag I hadn't used since our wedding trip, something slipped out of the side pocket. A necklace. Not hers. I stared at it like it was a rattlesnake coiled in velvet. It was delicate, gold chain, tiny crescent moon charm. I had never seen it before. I don't even wear jewelry. But it smelled like her perfume. And the tag on the little cloth pouch? Hotel Halberd, room 406. That wasn't just any hotel. That was the place we had our anniversary dinner last year. But we had never stayed there. Not overnight. Not in room 406. I was already packed. Already walking out. But something about that necklace made me stop at the door and turn around. I wasn't leaving anymore. I was going to that hotel. And what I found in room 406 changed everything. I didn't even remember the walk to the hotel. I must have looked insane. Carrying a camping backpack like I was about to hike the Rockies, sweat sticking my shirt to my back, and hands trembling as if the strap was made of fire. But I didn't care. My legs moved on instinct, like my body already knew what my brain wasn't ready to accept. The Hotel Halberd was one of those too nice for the neighborhood buildings. Stone arches, ivy vines, big chandeliers that tried way too hard. The lobby was freezing, fake jazz was echoing off the walls, and I swear everyone looked at me like I didn't belong. They were right. I didn't. I went straight to the desk and lied through my teeth. My wife left her key card in our room. She's in 406. The woman behind the counter smiled like a Botox ad. I'm afraid I'll need to see some. Look, I cut in, trying not to shake. She's pregnant. She just texted me she's not feeling well. I just need to check on her. I could tell she didn't believe me, but she handed me the spare anyway. I thanked her like a man begging for forgiveness. I took the elevator alone. Each floor ding felt like a heartbeat I wasn't ready for. When the doors opened, the hallway was silent. Thick carpet, dim lights. It smelled like roses and bleach. Room 406 was at the very end. I didn't hesitate. The keycard blinked green. Click. The door creaked open. And it was empty. Not just empty. Clean. No bags. No clothes. No shoes kicked off at the edge of the bed. But the bed was turned down. The sheets still held the shape of 2 people. One pillow was smeared with makeup. Lipstick on the glass by the sink. 2 champagne glasses. But no one was there. And then I saw it. Something small. Out of place. A tie. Not mine. Not anyone I recognized. It was tossed over the chair like someone got dressed in a hurry. And under it, a piece of paper folded in half. I picked it up. It was a receipt. Dated yesterday. Room service for 2. Lobster. Sparkling water. And a note scribbled on the back in red ink. He's never going to let go. You need to end it. Tomorrow. My stomach sank like an elevator with a snapped cable. I wasn't crazy. She wasn't just having an affair. She was planning something with him. Something involving me. And that necklace? It wasn't a clue. It was bait. I turned to leave, but someone knocked. Not on my door. On the room across the hall. I didn't breathe. I just listened. Footsteps. A voice. A door opening. And then, through the crack of 406, I saw her. Harlow. In the hallway. Wearing a dress I'd never seen before. Smiling at whoever had just opened the door. And walking inside. Without even looking at me. She hadn't left me. She was watching me, and I had just walked straight into whatever trap she had set. I knew I shouldn't follow her. Every fiber of logic screamed to walk away. Leave the hotel. Cut my losses. Let her keep whatever version of herself she had left behind that door. But logic had stopped driving this story a long time ago. It wasn't logic that made me quit my job or sell the car or drag my dignity through the mud just to chase shadows. It was obsession. It was the kind of blind loyalty that makes you feel like bleeding is romantic. So yeah, I waited. I waited until the hallway was silent again, until the door across from me had closed. Then I slipped out of room 406 like a coward and crept across the carpet. I didn't knock. I didn't dare make a sound. I leaned in, listened. Just soft murmurs, low voices, the occasional chuckle. Hers. His. The sound of a lighter clicking, then the faint scent of something burning. Not a cigarette. Something sweeter. Like cloves. I crouched next to the peephole. No one had covered it. I pressed my eye against the glass. And what I saw didn't make sense. They weren't touching. She was pacing in circles, barefoot, holding a drink in both hands like she couldn't figure out which one to put down. The man was sitting on the bed, older, clean-shaven, dressed like someone who cared about appearing effortless. But there was something off about him, something too calm. I watched him reach into a suitcase and pull out a black binder. He opened it, tapped the pages, and said something I couldn't hear. Harlow stopped pacing. She looked scared. And for the first time since this started, she looked like the victim. She sat down. She was shaking her head, whispering no, no, no. He closed the binder, stood up, and placed a hand on her shoulder. And then he pulled something else from the suitcase. A phone. Not hers. Not mine. A burner. She took it reluctantly, typed something, and just like that, my phone buzzed. I pulled it out and stared at the screen. Unknown number. I made a mistake. Don't come looking for me. My breath caught. This wasn't just about cheating. This wasn't an affair. This was scripted, timed, coordinated. She had texted me while I was outside the door, while I was watching, and she didn't know I was there. Or maybe she did. Suddenly, I felt it. That hot, choking weight behind my neck. The sense that I wasn't the one watching anymore. I turned around. There was a man standing at the end of the hall. He wasn't dressed like staff. He had no name tag. He wasn't holding a phone or a clipboard. Just standing perfectly still with his hands behind his back, like he was waiting for me. I stepped backward slow. He didn't move, didn't blink. And just when I reached the stairwell door behind me, I heard it. Click. The door across the hall opened again. But when I looked back, they were gone. Both of them. The room was empty. No voices. No suitcase. No binder. Just the faint sound of an elevator going down. And my heart pounding in my throat like a war drum. Whatever was happening, I wasn't just part of it anymore. I was the target. I didn't sleep that night. Not that I even tried. I sat in my car in the parking garage 3 blocks from the hotel, staring at the windshield like it held answers. The air was thick and unmoving. The city sounds muffled through the concrete structure, but I couldn't shake the image of her sitting in that room, terrified. And then, vanishing. That's what kept gnawing at me. She didn't run off with someone and disappear into romance. She was taken from that room. Erased. The kind of disappearance that leaves no trace because it was designed to. And that man, the one standing at the end of the hallway, he wasn't a bellhop or a nosy guest. He was watching me like I was late for something. Like I had already messed up a schedule I didn't know I was on. When I finally drove home, I found the front door slightly open. My blood froze. It was 5:12 a.m. The neighborhood was dead quiet. I parked down the street and approached on foot, listening for anything. Footsteps, voices, movement. Nothing. I pushed the door open slowly, every nerve in my body buzzing. Inside, nothing was missing. Nothing broken. No signs of a struggle. But everything was cleaner, wiped down, like someone had walked through the place with gloves and a purpose. In the kitchen, taped to the fridge, was an envelope. My name written on it in unfamiliar handwriting. Inside, a single Polaroid. It was me, taken from across the street. Same clothes I wore yesterday. Same backpack. Same damn moment I quit my job and walked out the front door. I hadn't even noticed anyone nearby. On the back of the photo, written in block letters. She told you to stay away. So stay away. I dropped the photo like it was acid. My hands were shaking again. My stomach was twisting into knots I couldn't untie. I checked every drawer, every closet, every window. I even looked behind the shower curtain like I was in some low-budget horror movie. But I didn't find anything. Until I checked her side of the bed. Underneath the mattress, duct taped to the frame, was a second phone. Burned out SIM. Battery half dead. One app installed, nothing else. A private messenger I didn't recognize, with one chat open. There were no names. Just timestamps. The last message she sent, 2 nights ago. I don't want to go through with it. He's not who you said he was. He's not dangerous. The reply came 1 minute later. They all say that before the end. You don't get to choose the timing anymore. I dropped the phone, stepped back, sat on the floor. This wasn't an affair. This wasn't about me being a boring husband or her needing attention. It was deeper, like she got involved in something calculated, something with rules and punishments. And now, I was dragging my feet across a line I didn't even know existed. I thought about going to the police, about explaining all of it. But what would I say? My wife vanished from a hotel room I broke into, and someone left me a threatening photo of myself because I saw her with a man who doesn't exist in any records. Yeah, that would go well. No, this wasn't for the police. This was personal now. They watched me leave my job. They watched me search that hotel. They left me a message because I was never supposed to be part of this. But they underestimated one thing. I've already lost everything. And a man with nothing left is the worst kind of problem to have. I didn't leave the apartment for the rest of the day. I unplugged the router, pulled the battery from my phone, covered the peephole with a Band-Aid, and taped blackout curtains over every window. Paranoid? Sure. But when someone breaks into your home, photographs you without you knowing, and leaves threats written in courier font, you stop caring how rational you look. I wasn't trying to disappear. I was trying to think. But my brain kept running in loops, chewing on dead ends. Who was the man in the hotel room? Who was sending the messages? Who gave her the burner phone? And most of all, why was she so afraid? By late evening, I was losing it. I kept staring at the burned-out phone, the last message echoing in my mind like a warning bell. You don't get to choose the timing anymore. I needed answers. Real ones. Not shadows and guesses. And then I remembered the box. The one she always told me never to open. It was hidden in the crawl space behind the hallway closet, jammed between dusty holiday decorations and some ancient photo albums. A small wooden chest with a rusted lock. I had asked her once what was inside. She smiled and said, "Just old stuff from before you." I respected that. I never touched it. Until now. I didn't bother picking the lock. One swing of the hammer, and it popped off like it had been waiting for years. Inside was a stack of notebooks, photos, and a velvet pouch. I reached for the notebooks first, leather-bound journals, filled with pages of handwriting that wasn't quite her usual style. It looked rushed, slanted, as if she was writing for someone else, or in a panic. And the first line? "If you're reading this, I'm already in too deep." My mouth went dry. I flipped the page. The entries were cryptic. Bits of information, scattered like puzzle pieces, names I didn't recognize, cities she'd never told me she visited, references to meetings, surveillance, handlers. At first, I thought it was fiction. Maybe a story she was working on. But then one entry stopped me cold. He keeps asking about Caleb. I told him Caleb doesn't know anything. But I think he suspects I'm lying. Caleb was her cousin. Except he wasn't. That's what she told everyone. But I knew the truth. Caleb was her half-brother. The product of an affair her father had before she was born. She told me in confidence, once, years ago. She said no one else knew, and to never mention it again. So whoever she wrote this for, she trusted them enough to admit it. And that's when I noticed something strange. The pages weren't in order. Some were missing. And on the back inside cover, written in small black ink, "Borrowed 3 journals. For evidence. April 12th, 25 J." That handwriting wasn't hers. Someone else had already found this before me. Someone who knew what they were looking for. I checked the rest of the box. The photos were old, her in different cities, different hair colors, sometimes with people I'd never seen before. One caught my attention, her sitting on a bench in what looked like Prague, next to the man from the hotel. The same guy? Same face. Years younger. But the strangest thing was the velvet pouch. Inside was a single ring. Not a wedding ring. A thin gold band with a tiny red stone. Inscribed inside, so faint it was barely visible. A dead ode. I stared at it, chilled. It didn't belong to her. I'd never seen her wear it. She didn't even own anything with red stones. But it was there, hidden with everything else she never wanted me to find. By now I was spiraling. This wasn't about infidelity anymore. This was about history. Secrets she had buried so deep she built a second life to cover them. And somehow, I was standing right in the middle of it. A knock at the door shattered my thoughts. Not loud, just 3 slow knocks. I froze, moved like glass toward the door, looked through the peephole. Empty hallway. But on the floor, just below the doorframe, was another envelope. I waited 5 minutes. 10. No sound. Then I opened the door and grabbed it. Inside, a note. You're digging too fast. If you want to live long enough to understand, stop for now. And tucked behind the note, a photo of Caleb, bound, gagged, eyes wide with fear, and written across the bottom in red marker. He still doesn't know what she did. I barely remember driving. I must have broken a dozen traffic laws. Red lights, speed limits, lane markings, they blurred past like background noise. My only focus was Caleb. I hadn't spoken to him in over a year. Not out of bad blood, but because Harlow insisted we keep some distance. He's not well, she said once. It's better if he stays away. At the time, I believed her. Now I was wondering if she'd been isolating me from the only person who could have helped. I didn't go to his apartment. That would have been stupid. If someone had him, they'd expect me to go there. So instead, I went to the community clinic he volunteered at sometimes, hoping someone had seen him recently. By sheer luck, or maybe something stranger, I found him. He was in the parking lot, leaning against his rusted Volvo, fumbling with a lighter. No ropes. No gag. No bruises. Not tied to a chair like the photo showed. Alive. And very, very alert. When he saw me approaching, his body stiffened. For a moment, I thought he'd bolt. Then I said the words I never imagined I'd have to say. They sent me a photo. Said you didn't know what Harlow did. His face changed instantly. The lighter slipped from his fingers. They sent it to you? He asked quietly. I nodded. Do you know what they're talking about? He looked down, shook his head slowly, and then said, you should come with me. Now. We drove in silence for 40 minutes. No destination. Just open road through a stretch of woods on the edge of the county. At some point, he pulled onto a gravel path that didn't show up on GPS and parked beside a boarded-up ranger station. Once inside, he locked the door, pulled out a battered thermos, and poured himself a splash of something dark and bitter. He didn't offer me any. Instead, he walked to the window and stared out for what felt like forever before finally speaking. I never believed she'd involve you. You mean Harlow? No, he said, turning toward me. Them. I was silent, waiting. He set the thermos down with a heavy hand. Harlow used to be part of something. Years ago, before she met you. She never told you because she thought she got out clean. But no one gets out clean. I was still trying to process what something meant when he opened a metal cabinet, revealing a series of manila folders labeled with initials I didn't recognize. One of them had my name. My full name. He handed it to me like it was a grenade. Inside were photos, surveillance logs, notes about where I worked, who I spoke to, even what brand of coffee I bought every morning. There was a copy of my resignation letter, the one I only emailed to my boss. A printed version of the burner phone message I got 2 nights ago. They had been watching me for months. Caleb watched me read, then said, Harlow wasn't cheating. She was covering for you, shielding you, taking the heat so you wouldn't show up on their radar. I laughed bitterly. She left me. No, he said firmly. She vanished before they could use you. She didn't want you involved. You getting this letter, seeing me, it means she failed. I shook my head. None of this makes sense. Who are they? What do they want? Caleb hesitated. They call themselves the Fold. At least, that's what I've heard. They're not government, not corporate, but they're inside everything. They erase people, rewrite lives. They recruit, use, discard. And if you try to leave, you vanish. Worse, he whispered. You're rewritten. I didn't believe him. I wanted to believe he was off his meds or deep in some paranoid delusion. But the envelope, the journal, the surveillance file, they were real, tangible, cold. And then Caleb dropped the final bomb. You were never supposed to meet her, he said. They assigned her to someone else, years ago. But then she met you. And that changed everything. My stomach flipped. You're saying she was with me because of them? I'm saying she chose to stay with you. And that was her first mistake. My head was spinning. I stood up too fast and felt my vision darken. I needed air, space, logic. I walked to the door and opened it and froze. On the windshield of my car, tucked under the wiper, was a photo. This time, it was Caleb. lying in a hospital bed, unconscious, with a toe tag, and on the back, scrawled in red ink. This was the first draft. Don't make us write the next one. I stood there staring at the photo on the windshield, the silence of the woods behind me pressing down like a scream that hadn't happened yet. It wasn't just a warning anymore. It was a declaration. Whoever they were, the fold, the people behind the journals, the messages, the surveillance, they weren't bluffing. They weren't threatening what they might do. They were showing me what they already had. Caleb stepped up behind me and stopped when he saw the picture. His jaw clenched. He didn't say a word, didn't reach for it, didn't even blink. Just stood there, lips pressed tight, eyes scanning the trees like he knew someone was still out there, watching. Maybe they were. When we got back inside, he grabbed his burner phone and made a call. A single word, confirmed. Then he hung up. I didn't ask who he called. I didn't need to. His hands were shaking as he poured himself another drink from that filthy thermos, and I realized this wasn't new for him. This fear, this running, this folded reality. He'd lived inside it for years. I had just arrived. Fresh meat. Clueless. Corruptible. I sat down across from him, pulled the journal from my bag, and flipped back to the last entry Harlow wrote. He's not who you said he was, it read. He's not dangerous. I looked up at Caleb. Who was she writing about? Who did she mean? He took a long time to answer. Then, you. I felt something deep in my chest turn over. What? She thought you were clean, he said, eyes dull. Thought you hadn't been touched yet. That she'd kept you safe. But if you're getting notes, if they're rewriting files with your name on it, if they've already printed your resignation letter, you've been folded. You just don't know how deep. I stood up too fast. The room tilted. That doesn't make sense. I didn't sign anything. I didn't talk to anyone. I didn't. But then I remembered something. 2 months ago, I got a call at work. Some corporate recruiter asking strange questions. He said he was with a firm that specialized in behavioral compatibility analysis, whatever the hell that meant. Asked me about patterns, routine, daily choices. Said I was pre-flagged by someone close and asked if I'd consider participating in a limited study for compensation. I said no, but they didn't need me to say yes. They just needed me to listen, to pick up the phone, to answer questions. That's when the files probably started. That's when I stopped being just her husband and started being eligible. You're telling me they can change who I am? I asked. Caleb looked like he wanted to say no, wanted to reassure me. But all he said was, they don't need to change who you are. They just need to change who people think you are. It was worse than I imagined. I wasn't just being watched. I was being edited, which explained what happened when I tried to call my old manager later that night, just to confirm something. A single question. Hey, do you remember me quitting last Thursday? The pause was long. Then, sorry, who is this again? I laughed nervously. It's me, Nolan. I worked in the East Division for years. Another pause. I think you have the wrong number. Then he hung up, and when I checked the company directory, my name was gone. No mention, no listing, no record in the staff BIOS. I checked my email. Password didn't work. Tried to reset it. No account found. My work history on LinkedIn. Blank. All of it. Every connection, endorsement, timeline entry, gone. Deleted like it had never existed. My chest felt like it was closing. That's when I knew. This wasn't just a warning. This was step one. They were scrubbing me out. And I had one option left. If I wanted to know the truth, if I wanted even a sliver of control back, I had to find Harlow. Not the Harlow in hotel rooms and surveillance photos. The real one. The one who had vanished before she could warn me. And I had a feeling I knew exactly where she didn't want me to go. The one place she made me promise, years ago, never to follow her. Her mother's cabin. The one she said burned down in 2009. But it didn't. I saw a photo of it in the journal, dated just 4 months ago. Fully intact. And according to the GPS metadata, it was only 90 miles away. I don't know what I expected when I pulled up to the cabin. The drive had been silent, the kind of silence that doesn't soothe, but stings. Every turn felt like a choice I couldn't take back. Every tree, every mile deeper into the woods, felt like I was burying my old life under layers of pine and dirt. The GPS cut out 6 miles before I arrived. Fitting. It was like the modern world didn't exist out here. The cabin wasn't abandoned. It wasn't burned down. It was perfect, untouched, even cared for. A thin wisp of smoke curled from the chimney. Someone was inside. My heart pounded so loud it felt like it would echo through the forest. I got out, walked up the old wooden steps, and raised my fist to knock. But the door opened before I touched it. And there she was, Harlow. Her hair was shorter. Her face was pale, tired, older somehow. But it was her. Not some version from a camera. Not a ghost. Her eyes filled with tears the second she saw me. "You're not supposed to be here," she whispered. I stepped forward, couldn't speak. I didn't hug her. I didn't demand answers. I just stared. She pulled me inside. There were no guards. No suitcases. No shadows. Just her. A wood stove. Some blankets. A kettle whistling quietly. "I didn't leave you," she said, hands trembling as she poured tea into 2 chipped mugs. "I made them think I did. I had to disappear before they tried to rewrite you." "They already started," I said. "My job's gone. My name." "I know," she cut in. "They don't just delete you. They rewrite you into something useful. A persona. A puppet. They've done it to people in tech, politics, even art. People who suddenly act different, think different, say things that don't match who they used to be. You've seen it. You just didn't realize what it was." I sat down slowly. My knees felt hollow. She took out a small metal case from under the floorboards and opened it. Inside was a device, like a hacked-up phone, connected to a solar-powered transmitter. "This is how I've stayed off-grid. It blocks their trackers and scramblers. I've been using it to feed them fake signals. They still think I'm in Istanbul." "Why?" I asked. "Why all of this?" She looked at me for a long time before answering. "Because you were the only real thing I ever had." I nearly broke then. The months of confusion, betrayal, panic, fear, they all rushed out of me in a breath I didn't realize I was holding. She took my hand. "I made mistakes. I joined the fold when I was young. I thought I was making the world safer. But it wasn't what they said. I wanted out. And the only way to leave is to vanish." "I should have gone with you," I said quietly. "No," she replied. "Because you stayed behind. I had time to build this. I had time to pull pieces of myself out of the system. I had time to save you." We stayed in that cabin for days. She showed me everything. The data she had collected, the ex-members she'd secretly helped disappear, the safe channel she'd set up for whistleblowers. She wasn't just hiding. She was fighting back. And the thing that broke me? She did it all alone. To protect me. Eventually, we left. Not back to the city, but forward into a new life. One without real names. One where our records were shadows, where our stories had to be told face to face. We took new jobs in a small coastal town under different names. She works with wildlife rehabilitation now. I teach kids how to fish. No one knows us. No one asks questions. But every now and then, we get a message. A name. A time. A request for help. And we do. Quietly. Safely. Together. Because the thing about being rewritten? It only works if you forget who you really are. And I never will. Because I remember the woman who burned her whole life down just to keep me intact. And I remember that once, long ago, I quit my job for love. But she gave up her entire identity to protect mine. And in the end, that saved us both.